Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Liberland Show. I'm your host, Adam Carswell. Today we are joined by Heaven Bereket. Heaven is a crypto forex trader and philanthropist based out of Sweden. Heaven, thank you for being on the show today, and do you have any opening remarks for our listeners?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm quite honored, basically, to say the least. I just got in contact with the Liberland, so this is cool.
Definitely. You'll have to let our listeners know as well. I guess, so we're going live in 2 ways right now. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing on your end of this interview.
Well, I have my own Instagram account, and there's a huge Facebook and Instagram account here in Sweden only for women. So they're like rooting for womanhood and how women create their own life in different kind of ways all over Sweden. And they have something they call Heja Takeover. The account is Heja Livet. It's in Swedish. I don't know if the listeners
How do you
here.
spell it in English
HEJALIVET. Basically, it's like Go Life, but it's about creating womanhood. And I started yesterday. So for 4 days now, I'm going to take over the Instagram account and just show them my life with my 2 kids, and doing this podcast with Liberland and the crypto and forex trading and all that.
Perfect.
So I'm doing a live session now for these people at the same time we're doing our podcast.
Live is the best. It's very authentic. It's dramatic. It's real.
I love that too.
In regards to Liberland, I got put in touch with you through our director of PR, Gautier Lamoth. When did you begin your journey as a Liberlandian or associating with Liberland? How did that begin? Where does that come from?
This was a funny story. I got invited to talk about inspiring the future for a conference based in Cascais in Portugal. I don't know if you have heard about Horizons with the Frank Jurgen.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. And so he invited me to join that conference with 400 other people. And then on the dinner, I just randomly sat down and started to talk about crypto because I love crypto. With this man sitting next to me. And he was like, yeah, I love it too. And we had this really good conversation. And then afterwards, he was like, do you know about Liberland? I was like, Liber what? He told me, well, it's a country in Europe. I was like, no, it is not. I probably think you have too much to drink. But the president of Liberland sitting next to me without even me noticing. And told me all about what they have, the Ethereum for their, Ethereum is my favorite, by the way. Sorry, Bitcoin are fantastics, but I love Ethereum. And he told me all about these great things and his vision about the country. And I thought it was a joke. And he said like, well, I would love to have you on my team. I was like, what? So I will work for the president of the country? I cannot say no to that. So that was really, really cool. And it's been a journey. We met up in London here this summer, where I had the opportunity to meet the rest of the core team. And my roles basically is together with Olivia in London to introduce Liberland to different African countries, so to the African market. So that was it. So I thought he was joking, to be honest. I thought he was joking.
So what African countries?
Well, basically everyone. Olivia is the head of introducing Liberland to different countries. When it comes to me, because my startups and what I invest in and the students I have is in Ghana, Kenya, and Ethiopia. So basically those first 3 countries is my major, my major priorities.
Very interesting. Have you been able to really take action yet with any of those countries? I know sounds like a short journey. So
yeah,
I don't know how much time you've had.
April, and I had an opportunity to meet up with the rest of the team this summer. And now we are very in the beginning, just trying to reach out a hand and talk about Liberland and see if there are any possibilities, how we can find basically some synergies, and basically when it comes to the blockchain technology and the crypto.
Very cool. So you kind of mentioned it just now in your how I became a Liberlandian speech, but can you tell us maybe about another unique experience you've had since working on this project?
The unique experience is our weekly meetings, I think, because we are we have a weekly meeting every Tuesday, and it's actually kind of amazing to hear about the people's engagement and passion about creating a new future. So I think every week having those meetings is very, very interesting. I think I'm one of the newest members in the core team, so I'm basically trying to learn everything and then catch up on everything they're doing.
Great. What's something, if you're allowed to share, because I'm sure these are some important meetings here. What's something that
it was the vice president and president joining us.
Hey, okay. Hey, I know those guys. What's something that you guys have maybe discussed recently in a meeting that you could share with us? We're on the outside looking in. Tell us about it.
Well, there's kind of different projects going on. Mostly from my part, I focus, as I told you just earlier, trying to introduce Liberland and find some business opportunities when it comes to the African market. But it's also about building the infrastructure in Liberland in different ways and trying to marketing and talk about it. And the president is doing a great job traveling all over the world and engaging in different blockchain events. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's a trooper.
It is pretty impressive. He was actually just here in San Francisco like yesterday. I just missed him.
Crazy. And he still attends the meetings and trying to be heads up. So,
Nice. Can you tell us a little bit more about your professional background? I know you're in Forex, you're philanthropy. What else do you have going on? How'd you get to where you're at?
Basically, I'm actually a pharmacist. That's where my journey started. A pharmacist has started an NGO in Ethiopia, and I basically understood that it's going to be hard to survive in that, what do you call it, just having a NGO, because it's hard to make people care enough because there's a lot of things to care. So I actually started to find different new opportunities, how to get an income and support the Bambinos. I started to invest in a pharmacy in Ethiopia, and then I sold my shares. And I got into Bitcoin very early, thanks to working as a phone saleswoman at the call center with guys who build their own computers and stuff like that. And they introduced me to Bitcoin and the trading. And now I've been trading, I think we're 872 people.
Wow.
All over the world. I have some people in San Francisco too, but mostly Africans.
Okay. Hey, I have African blood.
Yeah. So it's a lot of African Americans, but mostly Africans that I've been teaching. And so we're 872 people, and 100 of them are like team leaders, because I can't be all over the place. And I think it's funny when it comes to people talking, especially here in Sweden, they are like, oh, crypto is not safe, it's not secure, it's just a hype. But when you go to the African market, you'll see it's a whole new world, basically, because I think it's like by maybe 70 or 80% of the African population who doesn't have a bank account. They don't have an access to bank account and just the credit card. And for those who have one, it's still very limited to the nation. You can't do anything online with that card, with that credit card or that bank account. So that's why I was so intrigued by talking to the president of Liberland about his vision to be more including, because that's the reason why I fell in love with the crypto, because it didn't discriminate anyone.
Right.
When people in Africa need to get into this market and doing this business with trading, they use crypto to get in because they have no opportunity to get in the market, because even if having a bank account is still limited. So that's crazy in this world. This is a lot of discrimination without even knowing it. But Here in Sweden, we expect to, when we open a bank account, it will work all over the world. So I think we're a little bit spoiled by that and think that crypto is not an option. But if you have the population of Africa, I think it's 1 billion maybe, and if not more, and 80% of them don't even have a bank account. Of course, they're going to find some other options to make a financial life worthy. So crypto is here to stay. It is.
And that's interesting, because I know for the most part in the US, so it seems like the trend would be in developed, or in, if you will, first world countries. That's where crypto kind of takes the most criticism. In my mind, until you're sharing it with me, I was assuming that Sweden was a little bit more open to it, especially since it is such a progressive country. Everyone kind of knows the Scandinavian countries have their own way of, they have this wealth, you know what I mean? So I'm curious, first of all, how did you end up in Sweden? But then also, just to validate what you're saying, Africa, the African countries, trajectory wise, are growing so fast right now. And in my opinion, it's not a surprise that something like blockchain has been so openly welcomed to these nations. And that goes hand in hand with the growth that we're seeing in the entire continent.
Yeah, exactly, because it doesn't discriminate anyone. Because we have like very well educated people in African countries, in different African countries, but they cannot do anything without outside their borders. Of course, that's going to be limited, and people want to grow, people want to prosper and get to business and start to help their family and friends. So just look at Akon. I'm in a project with one of his team cores about a project called in healthcare. His name is Damoy Robinson. Like, just look what he's done for just a few years. So yeah, I know Sweden is very progressive and in the front when it comes to many things, but they're a little bit skeptical when it comes to crypto, but it's getting better. It's getting better. But of course, if you don't have the limitation to financial limitation, of course, you're going to be more skeptical when it comes to new things.
And I think that's also why we're so passionate about Liberland, is we see the potential that this nation has to set an example for the entire world, really.
Exactly. So well, how I ended up in Sweden. Well, I'm born in Eritrea.
Yes, thank you. There you
go. I'm born in Eritrea, and when I was born, it was Ethiopia, but it was a war between the Eritrean region to the Ethiopia. So that's when my family escaped. So I came as a refugee, actually, to Sweden. They sent us up north, where it's like all snow. But I was
right.
I don't remember so much, but I can imagine for my parents, it has to be a very shock. So I grew up up north in Sweden, and I came here as a one-year-old, and then I got my citizenship when I got 2-year-old.
Wow.
So I've been here a while.
Okay. So you speak, what, 4 languages?
Wait, now it's 3, right? Tigrinya, English, and Swedish.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there's another one floating around in there.
Who knows? Who knows?
You actually fit the mold of what an average Liberlandian is capable of. I joked about this with on my last episode with Tom Walls. The average Liberlandian speaks like 3 languages.
Yes.
For me, I'd have to throw like Pig Latin in there in order for it to be 3, but that's cool. Tell us a little bit more about the Bambino Foundation and how we can, maybe work more with you and get involved with that.
Yeah, the Bambino Foundation, the biggest aim there is to give access to children in different African countries. And for now, before we accept a child into our foundation, we need to make sure we can provide full healthcare for 3 years. So now we provide full healthcare to 1,453 children in these 3 countries. And when I mean full healthcare, is basically full healthcare. If the kid needs glasses to see better, it's everything to enhance that little person's life, to actually just be a kid and focus in school and playing, we will provide for it. So that's what we do. So every student I accept, 30% of that monthly fee goes to the Bambino Foundation. We do accept donations, even crypto donations. I think I'm probably one of the few Swedish organizations who do that. Maybe no first. I need to check that out.
There you go. Yeah, you're setting trends.
It would surprise me. I need to check that out. I need to do my research before I will take that statement. But we do accept donations, but we're not dependent on it. And that's the great thing. That was my aim when I started, and I realized it was hard to make people care. So we do accept donations, but we're not dependent on it. And I do full trading, and all of my money goes to the Bambino Foundation too.
Where do you see, this is a double question, where do you see the Bambino Foundation in 3 years? And where do you see your involvement with Liberland in 3 years?
Oh, that's 2 good questions. With the Bambino, I think it's going to be until I'm ashes. And we'll leave this world, because my aim is actually to provide full healthcare to 500,000 children. I think I've been in 3 years. I will be more out there and involving with other social entrepreneurship. Akon, are you listening to this? Call me.
We'll get it to him somehow.
Yeah, send it to him.
Akon can do the first first concert ever in Liberland.
Yeah, who knows? And with Liberland, I hope the relations between Liberland and some of African countries, especially when it comes to Ghana, because that's my first country I'm getting into, be more involved. Who knows? Maybe I will be a diplomat 3 years.
You kind of already are. So That's good.
Yeah, I don't have that security guard yet. I will call you when I do.
Cool. Well, I don't have many other questions for you. I do have a fun one in Sweden. I don't know. We might have different brands, but this is just to kind of spice things up and let the listeners get to know you a little bit more. What's your favorite kind of breakfast cereal?
Well, I don't eat cereal. I eat oatmeal.
Well, there we go. What's your favorite oatmeal?
My favorite oatmeal is from Mesa. It's actually a TAF. So it's oatmeal by the brand Mesa. And it's Eritrean Ethiopian based. Hey.
You'll have to send me a link to that as well, because
I will do that.
I got to try it now.
I will do it.
But great. Hey, Heaven, thank you for joining us on the Liberland show. It's been great. Do you have any closing remarks for the listeners? Actually, any way that anyone can get in touch with you after we're done?
Well, yeah, there's email, heaven@bambinofoundation.com, or you can just DM me at my Instagram. I'm trying to be more active. It's in tune with heaven, and it's heaven like the sky, heaven. So the pressure is on.
The pressure is officially on. Perfect. All right, Liberlandians. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. This has been Heaven Bereket on the Liberland Show, episode 4. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, and we will catch you in the next episode.